What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 12 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and what an absolutely amazing show we have for you guys live today. We're covering the Jeff Ruby Stakes as part of the late pick 4 of Turfway and all stakes pick 4 on Saturday. It's going to be absolutely great. And then we're also going to have an update to the bracket pool and who's doing the best in that regard. I can tell you, it's spoilered. It's not me. I can promise you that. I think I'm not showing up as the podcast too well, but yeah, we're kicking it nonetheless, and we making some money on the side, betting games on their own. But hopefully, all your bets and your brackets are doing really well out there. So we'll go over that tonight, and then we're extremely excited to have Arizona's racetrack industry program's own Nathan Klein, who is the caller over at Relito Park over in Arizona. Excuse me. And we're super excited to have him on. We're going to talk about his inspirations, and he's going to indulge a little bit on the racetrack industry program and everything like that. And it should be an absolutely great interview. I'm super excited to meet him. And like I said, just going to be an absolutely great show for you guys today. Just again, go over a little bit of the stuff as we normally do. Please go down below and hit subscribe. It helps us out a lot, and you'll never miss another new podcast from either myself or Howard, Pete, and Paul on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights, depending on what shows they do throughout the week. So yeah, if you're interested, please go down and hit subscribe. It would really help us out. And while you're down there, please hit the like button. That lets YouTube know that this is a show that people want to watch, and that will continue to push out the video through the algorithm. So again, please, we would really appreciate it. My email is going down below. It is bettinandboozin@gmail.com. If you're an audio listener, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor. Those are our main three that we post on every single show. We post every single show on. So if you're more of an audio person, not so much, you don't like the YouTube as much, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor and find us there. As in terms of the power picks, absolutely, again, smashing it. Feels like we're smashing it every single week at this point, but just giving out spot plays, price plays, pick fives, just winners after winners, it feels like. I gave out some good ones last week along with Pete and Paul, or 2 weeks ago with Pete and Paul, and they gave out a bunch of good stuff. And this week's going to be big because not only do we have the Louisiana Derby, we have the Dubai World Cup that Howard's doing a live show on for Saturday. Put that on your calendars as well. That is going to be with Davy Lane, everyone's favorite punter our handicapper from the UK. Davy Lane will be on Saturday, so please be ready for that. But if you're interested, please go to patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast and start cashing with us today. And thanks again to our brand new sponsors who make these shows possible. BetUS is an absolutely great, fantastic, and sports betting and casino platform. They offer so many games and so many different props to bet on. Again, BetUS, and that when you're depositing money, please use code RACING3H when signing up, and you'll get a free $125% back if you deposit $100 or more. So please look below the video player. There's a link in the description if you want to follow that and get in on some of that action. And again, and I want to touch on this because the OBS sales, for those of you that don't know, just ended, and Crownsway and Tony Rollo were out there buying horses for their brand new Series E that they've been pushing out. And they got 3 extremely nice fillies, including the fastest worker out of the entirety of the sale. They bought that one earlier this morning, actually. Actually, they bought 3 total. They're all chestnuts, which I joked with Tony about. I was like, they all look the damn same. But they bought 2 in the sale yesterday, and then 1 as a after sale purchase. But yeah, they got 3 brand new 2-year-olds to add to the barn. 2, I believe, going to Kelsey and 1 going to Carlos Silva. But there's still time to get in on this absolutely great new series for Crownsway Racing. If you're interested, please email Anthony Rollo with 2 L's at crownswayracing.com or DM them on Twitter at Crownsway Racing. That website is also below in the description if you want to check out everything about them. But there is still time to sign up. I know we were talking about March, but there's still plenty of time to sign up. And like I said, go to their Twitter if you want to check out all the new colts. I believe there's 1 filly. There's either 3 colts or 2 colts and 1 filly. So please go check them out if you're interested. We would greatly Appreciate it. Now, racing downwind again, boozing, no losing. See, my tag is back to betting, back to betting and no losing because my sickness is finally gone. Diagnosed with the flu A and stuff like that, but we're finally good to go, ready to booze again. But and look at that, there we go. And there's Anthony Rowell in the chat. Anthony, Tony, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. And like I said, you didn't even have to. I didn't even have to say, see this. I got you, Tony. Don't worry about it. But yeah, 3 absolutely great chestnut horses. If you want, please go onto my Twitter, which is at AP Roscoe K, or at Crownsway Racing, and you'll see all the pictures of the 2 Colts and fillies or 2 Colts and 1 filly. Thank you, Tony. Greatly appreciate it. Roshan, welcome so much to the show. Greatly appreciate having you on. I know you're a big supporter of Howard over there, but I greatly appreciate you coming to check us out. Now, and again, Jim Pilares, thanks so much. I appreciate it. We will have a great show, hopefully picking some winners here. But guys, Patrick again is sadly is going to miss this show. I think he's gonna that or be on a little later. He got stuck at work again, being out there in New Jersey. He said he got out about 30 minutes ago, but it takes, it's like Chicago out here. It's either it takes an hour or it takes 15 minutes to get home or an hour and a half to get home. So hopefully he can end up joining us. But the man is back from his 2-week hiatus of the show. Many of you have missed him, as I see in the chat every single week, all the sports knowledge and all the crap that he gives. But my man from Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman. Charlie, what's going on, my friend?
Not much. I know the people are missing me. March is my time, so I apologize, everyone. And I do have a bone to pick with my school's fire alarm because it didn't allow me to give my future picks, which, by the way, when we cover later, both of them are still alive. Madness. So I do have a little bit of bragging to do when we get to that.
Hey.
But yeah, unfortunately, was on the hiatus. Had to leave early because of a fire alarm the last episode I was on, so I apologize to the guests for that. And then, yes, of course, Howard also had to mention Northwestern put up their valiant fight. I did not like the region they were put in. They should have been in the East. I would have gotten to see them because I was in Columbus, so I saw the games. Should have been them that I got to watch. The East is a joke. Northwestern would have gone to the Final Four, but fortunately it was a second-round exit.
Yeah, don't worry. My team lost in the NIT, so don't worry about it. It is what it is.
Yeah, at least you're not a Purdue fan.
Hey, yeah, sucks to be them, and it always sucks to be them.
Always be a Purdue fan.
Last 3 years they went out to what 14 and 15 and 16 seed or something ridiculous like that.
It was 13? Like 13, 15, and 16.
Yeah,
also not ideal to be an Iowa fan. They always lose in the first round. It's so funny.
It really is. Sketchy the horse guy, thanks so much for joining the show. I don't know if I recognize your name too well, so again, thanks so much. But trust me, man, I'm sure Charlie can attest to it, and I definitely can as well.
So many annoying fire alarms.
Not even, it's always something, but always going off at like 4 a.m. for some reason. You can't prove it, but we might have stayed inside at some points just because it's absolutely ridiculous at the times that they put in
There's
there.
always been the alleged I slept through it, of course. Somehow,
allegedly, of course. But and then I'm looking Penn State Scott. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yep. And a new coach because you guys definitely.
I'm sorry about that, Penn State Scott. Yeah, you guys lost a really good coach. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, I was rooting for, I can't believe I was, but I was rooting for them to win that round of 32 game. I actually had money on them to beat God, I can't slip in my mind at this point, but Texas, thank you. Yeah. But shit goes on. But Otago watch putt. Ooh, okay. This is big. Otago watch party Sunday at Hawthorne in Chicago. Anyone in the Chicago area that wants to meet Tony Rollo of Crownsway Racing and talk about Series E, please come out to Hawthorne. Because, I didn't know. I will definitely be there. That's actually, and there you go. Right here. Join Crownsway Racing as a new partner. The babies we just bought, we're all super excited. So, again, if you are interested, please go hit up Anthony Rollo at crownswayracing.com or on Twitter at Crownsway Racing. It is great. Oh, it's Nathan. Oh, that's hilarious. Don't worry about it, Nathan. But hey, that's awesome. I love it. But that caught me off guard, to be honest with you. But Nathan, so thanks so much for joining the show, man. I greatly appreciate it. We'll see you on later. But Charlie, as we continue to go forward here, this card at Turfway, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't play too much Turfway.
Oh, I've never played Turfway before. We're going to load this together.
It's notorious for me for if you want to catch some bombs. This is the this is the track to do it at. And a lot of these races, I mean, absolutely massive fields, might I add.
Yeah.
I believe it's 11, 14, 12, 14 or something
Yeah, no, it's
ridiculous.
so I imagine since you said it's normally for bombs, then you don't do well here because you normally like chalk.
Hey, take it easy, all right? Take it easy. Dude, yeah, I got some good ones. I shopped around, but
Okay.
I
A
shopped
little
around.
4-1 maybe, or 3-1 if you're feeling really
If
risky,
I'm
or 5
feeling
to
if I'm
one.
feeling adventurous, maybe I'll branch out to the 4-1 department, but we'll see how
There you
it
go.
goes. We'll see how it ends up going. But as I pull up the picks right now, Charlie, we're starting in race 9. It is going to be the all stakes pick 4. They have a maiden special weight after the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which is race 12. The pick 4 starts in race 9. So it is as I pull it up, it's the Latonia Stakes. And as I pull up our top picks right now, I'm going with the 8, and Charlie's actually going with the 5, who I have in third. And as I bring it up here, the number 5 is Idiomatic for Chris Landeros and Brad Cox at 3-1. I believe that is the morning line favorite, if I'm not mistaken as well. It is. So Charlie's taking the me route. He's going out with the chalk. And Charlie, what do you like about Idiomatic?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had to steal your thunder and pick the favorite. So obviously, the fact that it's a Brad Cox trained horse is immediately grabbing my attention. I like the works, and also, even though I'm normally, as people may or may not be familiar with me on the show when it comes to horse racing, especially for longer distance, I typically like to pick horses that like to sit farther back. However, if you look at the time form, it has good early speed with an 81, but also really solid late speed with a 92. And you can see with its races that when it's at this distance, it likes to sit just off those leaders and then pull away late. So I kind of just expect this horse to do exactly that. It's with the jockey that knows exactly how to ride it. I think it's going to sit right off the early leaders and then make a strong push home. And I don't think the distance will be any sort of problem. I trust Brad Cox, and I think he knows what he's doing putting this horse in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with these connections. I would say when you have a Juddmonte horse with Brad Cox, there's not necessarily a bad combination to
Could be
have on
worse.
your
Could be
back. Could
worse.
definitely be worse, and well, trust me, there's worse on this page. That's for sure. I have the 5 and third. I'm just going to touch on a little bit. I just think this horse is definitely doesn't need the lead. He's just going to have to improve a little bit as I go to my top pick in a little bit. Actually, I'll just go to my top pick now, Kate's Kingdom. Um, for William Walden and Irad. I mean, this horse has been at Turfway throughout the winter. This horse has raced in 3 straight listed stakes. It ran well in 2 of them, and one of them just didn't have really the too much pace to run into. Just kind of was a little bit too far back. They brought him a little bit closer, or brought her. God damn it, I gotta take a drink again, as you know. But this horse is, I hope they keep this horse a little bit forward. It just looks like there's a lot of speed to me in the race like this. So I'm really hoping that this
Oh,
horse
there
can
is,
really
yeah.
just sit a trip. Out of the 8 hole, I'm hoping like 2 wide middle pack somewhere around there. And I'm hoping, like I said, I think the 5 might be that type of speed to hold on, but I'm just hoping that the 8 comes over the top. And like I said, these numbers back here, especially this 92 and the Ontario Matron, they completely fit. I'm just hoping, like I said, that was back in October. The sources ran 2 kind of duds since then, but I'm hoping for an improvement off that last effort in the Winter Green. And again, that was after Grand Avenue Girl, and I can't bring up the replays sadly, as since this is a Twin Spires track, Twin Spires own track, I can't pull up replays through DRF, but Grand Avenue Girl I think was out in the lead by 5 lengths or so on the backstretch. So just couldn't catch, but definitely the best of the rest. So I liked Kate's Kingdom, hopefully to sit another good trip here and fly home on the top at the top of the stretch. You're going with the number 11 in second, which I actually have nowhere. It's Bellamore for Salmon Callahan and Martin Garcia. Granted, raced at Churchill last time, but is mainly as a West Coast horse.
Yeah, so the reason the 11 intrigued me was for 2 things that stood out to me. The first being the competition. Obviously, you see all the different graded stakes that it's been, and then I also like the consistency. If you look at its last 5 races, the speed figures have consistently been in the high 80s and even one in the 90s. And I feel like in a bigger field like this where it's tough, a lot of different speed, really hard to truly know who to win there. At least in my opinion, even though I do think the 5 is a great horse, there's not a clear cut this horse has to win type of field. So I just that when I get into a race like that again, especially when there's a lot of horses, I just look for consistency, and that's what I found with the 11. I found consistently tough competition and consistently strong speed figures. I also love that late figure on the time form of 107. I think that could be crucial. I think this horse is going to be a little bit overlooked and could be dangerous.
I mean, I completely agree with you in that regard. He is coming off a little. She is coming off a little bit of a layoff.
Cheers.
That's 2 already today. I'm pulling a Paul already. For those of you that are fans of the show, you guys know I'm already pulling a Paul. But this horse is just gonna have to work out a trip from the outside, in my opinion. This horse has
that'll be the toughest.
She has a little. Sure. She has a little bit of tactical speed, but I think she might be better a little bit longer than a mile and an eighth. Like this horse raced mile and a quarter, but mile and an eighth is nothing short of this horse. Won at Del Mar, granted last year in July. But this horse just has to be ready off the layoff, and she has to work out a trip. And, from these outside posts is a little bit harder to do. That there's a long run up to that first turn at Turfway in a mile and an eighth. So I don't think there's going to be any problem. It's just a matter of she's definitely, in my opinion, she's definitely going to have enough speed to run into. It's just a matter of can she continue to improve on the, and she, like I said before, she has good numbers on the synthetic. She raced back in Golden Gate in early of last year, but put up some good numbers with an 83 and a 66. So this horse is not impossible. I think I have her in my, excuse me. I think I have her in my pick 4, but like I said, just going to have to work out a trip from that outside. You have the 4 and 3rd. I have the 4 and 2nd. It is Ilomacchio. I think Macchio is if it's
I was
Italian.
hoping you would have to say this horse. I didn't know how to pronounce the name.
I think it's really Ilomacchio if it's Italian. But for Martin Drexler, John Velasquez, this horse is also off a little bit of a layoff since Woodbine. But these last 2 numbers at the 90 certainly fit. This horse has tactical speed, which I really like in a horse like this, especially breaking from the middle. This horse is perfectly suited to go in a mile and an eighth, 1 at a mile and a quarter in the Maple Leaf at Woodbine. Again, this is going to have to be a horse that is going to be ready. It's going to have to be ready off the layoff. But Martin Drexler, as you can see, is my notes over here. Anytime I see a horse like this, I like to look at the trainer stats off this type of layoff. And 14 for 61, that's above 25% coming off these layoffs. So that's extremely good, honestly. So, and again, this is an Ontario bred. Last one was state bred Ontario, but destroyed that field. The 90 definitely fits. If she's ready off the layoff, I think this one can be dangerous. Charlie, do you have kind of anything to add after that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love what I've been seeing this from the horse. The only reason I had it 3rd, the only thing that makes me a little nervous is if you look at the past form, not that it's bad by any means, but you can see its last 2 races were clearly the big step up that it took off the layoff. So I guess the only concern I have is the fact that after it had that big step off, they chose to have a layoff, which I don't entirely understand. So I guess what I'm curious to see then, though, is when it comes back, will it still be able to be at that ability of those 90 speed figures? Because if it can, I'm not concerned at all. And I think this horse can be very competitive, but that's a big question for me. But I do think if it can, it's a real contender, which is why I had to have it in my top 3.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I just think this horse, like I said, has a lot of tactical speed. So, and I apologize for the what's it called? The technical error, by the way. But I just think this horse has a lot of tactical speed and can really sit a trip as long as she is ready off this layoff, like I said. Just kind of a first jump horse for me. If this horse can get up and over and just beat the other horses to the front, I think, especially on a synthetic track, which a lot of it can favor horses that land up front, I think this horse could be dangerous for sure. Like I said, just then for the 11 and the 4, it's just a matter if they're ready off that layoff, like I said.
Agreed.
So as I move to this next race here, we're going to go to race 10. And as I switch the Equibase 1 second, it is the Kentucky Club Classic. Yeah. And this one is another tough race, which my top pick, you don't even have. I'm going with the 10 as I pull it up right now is King Cause for Gerardo Corrales and Mike Maker. And you are going with the number 5, Wolfie's Dynaghost, who I actually almost picked on top. I have him in second. That was going to be my 6-1 that I was going to, rave about. Oh, my 6-1, I have it, but actually you have it on top. So as I switch to the PPs right now, what do you love about Wolfie's Dynaghost?
Yeah, so I mean, for me in my past on the show, I'm certainly someone who's not afraid to pick a horse that might not be the most popular to other people on top. But really, honestly, what I liked about this horse was after it had that huge layoff, I hadn't raced since October of 22, comes back in January of 23 on the dirt at a good distance at Gulfstream, and then just has a terrific race. It was able to sit right off the pace and get to the lead. Fantastic speed figure with a 94. Now, obviously, the fact that after that strong of a race, they waited again, maybe a little concerning, but I think honestly that the trainer just was very pleasantly surprised to see what the horse did because it was a big step up from its last race. And maybe they just felt that the horse was ready for another big step up. And I'm willing to take a flyer on it. And I think that if it can run a race like its last one, there's no reason it can't win this race.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that this horse is running is going to be towards the front. There is a little bit of speed in this race as well. But there's no saying why this horse can't just be better. This is the speed of the speed, in my opinion. I don't really think Wolfie's Dynagos is necessarily a need the lead type either by any means. As you can see in that last race, she sat just right, just off of a horse. Granted, it was but it's $100,000 handicap at Gulfstream during the championship meet. I think I really like this horse. And like I said, I went with the 10 just for the sole fact that I think the 10 might just be better and ready. But like I said, I was this close to putting this horse on top as well. So I completely agree with you with everything you said. And I kind of just have really nothing else to add. I'm going to talk about my top pick real quick, which is King Cause from Maker, who ran in the Pegasus World Cup Turf and lost to a Tone, was on the lead basically the whole time and just didn't have enough down the stretch. I mean, all these horses were flying past at the end. But like I said, the thing that brought me back was this horse ran extremely well. This horse actually won this last year. You could see right here on April 2nd, 2022, won the Kentucky Cup Classic with Manny Franco aboard. I just think this horse could sit a good trip. Just going to have to, like I said, work that way from the outside. But I think this horse has only improved since the last ran at Turfway last time, especially with high 90 buyers these last few times. So as long as he can work out a trip, granted, he is eight, and I know Howard's going to give me, I know he's going to give me crap because he hates these types of 8-year-olds that come back to these races. But I'm going to go with, I think Maker's only making this horse excuse the pun. He's only making this horse better right now. I think after a buyer top last race, I think this horse is poised for another step forward, coming back to synthetic where it's ran really well before at Turfway. So I'm going to definitely take a shot with King Cause, but I completely respect and love your pick with Wolfie's Dynaghost. You actually have a horse I don't have, which is the 8 Ocean Atlantique, but this is another horse which I was this close to putting in there, but I did not end up putting it in my top 3.
Yeah, so with Ocean's Atlantique, last 2 races, again, just huge step up. We've talked about before on this show how much we like it when we see a horse make that step up. And, it looked like it kind of peaked. Maybe it had the 90 and 94, and then all of a sudden it looks like with that 73, like, oh, God, what happened to this horse? But then after that, came back and has just responded really nicely, went to the lead, got stronger as the race went on, was able to pull away, ridiculously strong figure. The workouts have been incredibly fast as well. I think this is a very, very dangerous horse. Love Michael Maker. I would not be surprised if this horse wins this race, and I think you could get it at a very reasonable price. I love everything about this horse.
Yeah.
I almost made it my top choice.
I mean, look, the only thing that put me this horse, if this horse can get the lead, and as Howard and I say, there's a lot of other speed that on paper that we see, but one of these horses is probably just going to bolt to the front and never look back. This is the horse that can do it and will be extremely dangerous if this horse can get to the front and stay clear of everybody else. Personally, I don't see that happening, but if the scenario were to come about, this would be the horse to completely benefit with it. I completely agree with you. I do think this horse is kind of a need the lead type. It did have a decent closing effort back when it broke extremely slow back in this Aqueduct race. But since then, it really just hasn't shown that this horse is one to pass. So if this horse doesn't get the lead, I'd be a little scared from a tactical perspective. But if this horse can break out in front and never look back, I think this horse is extremely dangerous. And obviously we have number 9, Santine, in third for both of us. This horse has ran extremely well in the middle of last year. I mean, winning the Turf Classic at Churchill, not running a big number, but not running just as well, or not running as well in the Manhattan, which that's still a race that haunts me to this day, when Tribuvan just absolutely ran away from everybody by 20 lengths, and just everyone's like, yeah, go, just have fun. That we were there. That was Belmont Stakes Day at Belmont. And it was just, it still pains me in my memories, but then came back and won the aforementioned, but I will refuse to call it the Million Stakes at Churchill. The Churchill Million is what I'm going to start calling it. But yeah, absolutely ran extremely well last year. This horse is just going to have to show it to me on the synthetic.
Yeah, no, I have two concerns. So number one, again, it has the great credentials, but yeah, the fact that it's been a turf horse scares me. And the other thing is, I just feel like naturally from its credentials, the races it's been in, how well the horse is known, I had a feeling, and now that I see the line, I'm right that I think it's just going to be at a price that it's not worth. I just feel like there's too many red flags on this horse where I would like on a single wise, I wouldn't bet this horse at 3-1. I have a feeling it could end up going off as a favorite in a field where it's a lot of horses and wide open. And Howard had mentioned earlier that, I mean, obviously people have to purchase the picks to find out, but that there's some long shots that he likes. And there were actually, I didn't put them on here, but there were two horses in this race that are very long odds that I also thought were intriguing.
What you got? I'll go for them quick. What you got?
I thought the 2 and the 4 were very interesting.
All right.
Especially because the 2's a Michael Maker horse, and I'm a little biased towards him. Oh, actually, both of them are.
I believe they are. Yeah, right? Yeah, they are. LeBron, basically.
I know, I thought it was LeBron when I first read it.
Maker and Rispoli, and then the 2 is Founder for Maker and Ramos. I mean, look, especially Founder, this is one of those horses that I actually have in the next race in third. This is one of those horses that can completely pick up the pieces if it falls apart. I just think that in order for this horse to come through, I think it has to fall apart. And then the 4, I mean, if you want to talk about the 4, go for it. All you.
Yeah, well, so for the 2, what I was going to say is, yeah, for me, I couldn't put the 2 in my ticket or in my top 3 because I don't actually think it'll win the race. But like you were kind of mentioning, because of the speed and picking up the pieces, I certainly think for those as individually that the 2 especially would be a great horse to consider putting in your exactas and trifectas, because I really do see it being a horse where, as you mentioned, there's a lot of early speed. A lot of horses are going to want to fight to the front. And I could see this one being one that just sits back there and says, look, it doesn't have the ability to naturally win this race, but can certainly pick up the pieces at a nice price to add value to your ticket. So if you do end up picking one of those 3, 4 to 5-1 horses to win and want to get more value, I think it could be great. And then, yeah, with the 4, like Penn State Scott had on, again, as I've mentioned time and time again, what I really like is seeing that the figures have gotten significantly better. I like that it has those 288s after the 74, the 68, the 63. It's just continuing to take steps forward. And again, another horse at a great price. I trust Michael Maker. I think he's going to have his horses ready. So I think those are 2. And also, I love that the late figure is 109. So I definitely think those are 2 horses to look into considering. And Founders is 108. So if you're looking for a horse to put under that could close late and pick up the pieces, I think the 2 and 4 are both great options.
I absolutely love it. I mean, exactly. This is, Howard's, back key tries where he put the horse in second and third and work underneath horse. But yeah, I absolutely love them. There's nothing wrong with picking these prices, especially for them to come underneath if you like a pretty short price horse on top. But all right, Charlie, as I move on to the next race here, I'm going to go to race 11. I believe it's the one before the Jeff Ruby Stakes. It's the Bourbonette Oaks for 3-year-old. This is basically the 3-year-old filly version of the Jeff Ruby Stakes. And as I switch to it right now, the morning line favorite is the number 5 Botanical for Cox and Landeros after 2 massive efforts from this horse. And as I switch to the PPs switch to our picks, what do you know? We're both going with the chalk on this one. We're both chalking out with the number 5 Botanical. Charlie, as I switch it right now, what do you like about her?
Yeah, so honestly, this horse was just too hard to pass up on. I mean, the crazy step forward that it took off its layoff, tough competition. Brad Cox, the horse responded to the much more difficult challenge after stepping up from optional claiming 50,000 to go to a $150,000 race, dominate the way it did. The fact that it was 9 lengths off the pace and then still went on to win by 6 lengths. It's been training well. I think Brad Cox knows exactly what he's doing. And this is going to be a horse that's going to go off at a short price, and I think should end up winning fairly easily. Would not be surprised.
Yeah, this is my one horse for this one. Granted, I know people are going to come after me about the massive buyer that this horse had. I just love this horse's last 3 efforts, let alone the last one. The horse is up front, absolutely sprinted through the first half and quarter and half mile, excuse me, in the last race. So the horse was nowhere near the front on that occasion, but just absolutely blew by everybody in the stretch. The last 2, I don't think this horse, the main thing why I really like this one is this horse is not a need the lead type to me. As you can see with the previous 2 races and then its last race out in this listed stake at Turfway. This horse does not need the lead by any means, but it will take it and it will continue on with it if it's given the opportunity. I just think that this horse has a tactical advantage no matter where it is, and that 91 buyer really kind of sticks out in a race like this. So I completely agree with you. As you'll see on my pick 4 later, I completely agree that this is going to be my horse to lean on in a sequence like this, especially at a track with like Turfway, where you can get a lot of decent prices. But as we move on, you have a horse that I don't have in second or third. That's 8 Flashy Gem, another Cox horse, this time ridden by John Velasquez.
Yeah, so I also did want to point out, just because I have to mess with you, I know I'm a Chris Paul fan, but I didn't know it was enough that my name would now be Paul down there. But yeah, no,
Oh, Jesus.
the 8 does intrigue me a lot. Again, I love Brad Cox. I love his horses. I love what he does. Again, and this is another horse where the reason it intrigued me, I'm sorry that I sound like a broken record, but it's the improvement. To go from 44 to 67 to 80, every single race, this horse just becomes significantly better. So I just feel if it keeps taking big steps up like that, that there's no reason it can't win this race. I do like the 5 more. I also do see that both have been ridden by the same jockey, and there's a reason that jockey chose the 5. But I would not be surprised if the 8 wins this race, and it will be at a better price. So if you are looking for someone to beat it, or who knows, again, if you're like me and love Brad Cox, maybe you just want to do the exacta with his 2 horses, I would highly consider having the 8 somewhere in there.
We're completely in agreement today, which means we're going to be either really right
Oh
or
God.
extremely wrong. It's going to be either one. But I mean, this horse, again, this is that horse that if this horse can get out front and clear, there's no saying why this horse can't win the race, especially with, again, I'm talking about connections. You're talking about Spendthrift Farm, Cox, Bolt Doro. I mean, like it matches up every which way as well. The only thing is that this horse is going to have to take a massive step up in class. From Landeros to Velasquez, there's absolutely no problem there. Like I said, it's just going to have to be the tactics. Can this horse get out in front and just lay waste to everybody else? And can this horse improve enough to get past the number 5? And numbers wise, it's going to obviously, time will tell. These are all lightly raced horses, so there's always room and always upside on 90% of these horses. But I love the 8, as like you said, it's going to be more of a price as the 5. And if you think this horse can improve a lot better, I love it. So I love the pick. So, but I have the number 2. You have it in third. I'm going to go over the 2. This is a horse that just coming over from from France. Jeez, I can't speak today. I'm sorry. I apologize. But this horse just coming over from France. This could now in the Brendan Walsh barn for IRAD. I watched the last race at Cannes. Brave Emperor, by the way, came back to win a group stake in its next race. Again, the time form ratings on the left hand side, you can see right here. As I make it full screen, you can see right here. Usually it's about a 15 to 20 point difference. I usually use about 15 between buyers and time form ratings. So this horse does seem a little slow on paper, but this horse has been racing against decent, really good competition in Brave Emperor's last time out. Really was never getting to that horse, but again, ran a decent second. And this horse coming over for Brendan Walsh, I think, who's pretty much about a third, 33% with first N8, with first horses in North America. So I'm going to definitely take a shot. Picks up IRAD, which is definitely not a bad thing. This horse just has to improve. For me, I don't think it's going to improve past the 5 and the numbers that the 5 has, but definitely an interesting one to keep in mind for its first race in the U.S. And then just to finish up, I have the 6, always at ease for the Sormos, Keith training, Kent riding. This is my one horse that, as you'll see, Charlie,
wow.
that
Oh
you
my
see that,
God.
yeah, you see that
Were you
30 to
feeling
1 on
okay
there,
when you
right?
made this pick? Were you feeling okay?
I
30?
knew I knew you were gonna give me shit for this one, but
Are you
this
sure
is
you didn't
one
read it as a 3? Did you miss the 0?
I might have, but listen up. But this horse. I don't think there's that much speed in a race like this. I think the 8's the speed of the speed. The 5 can sit just off, and I think the 5 might just be the better horse. But this is the horse that is, if anything comes nuts or anything goes nuts, anything falls apart, this could be a horse that's going to pick it up. As you can see in its previous races, at the Golden Gate here. I mean, massive 22, 21, and 9 for granted a sprinter, but this horse stretches out, still running pretty well. Like I said, I would show the replay, but I can't as these are Turfway races. I just think this horse could pick up pieces if things go awry, and especially for and here, yep, there we go, Howard, and there it is. But I knew it was coming. But this is going to be my horse that if stuff goes awry, this is going to be a horse that you might want in your exactas or tries to come in second or third. It's going to need to improve a lot. Don't get me wrong, but this horse has synthetic breeding. This horse has route breeding. This horse is working decently. I mean, look, if this horse can show a little bit of improvement to that 80 buyer figure, I don't see any reason why this horse can't clunk up for third. But good enough to win? Probably not. Like I said, especially since with the two Cox horses out in front running away, I think this horse might have a chance to get up into third. But again, shit on me all you want when this horse is probably still going to be running on Sunday morning. But again, you want some prices, you're going to get some prices. You know what I'm saying?
Look, when the 6 finishes first in race 12, is he still finishing up race 11? We'll all be, you'll be laughing at all of us. So
I will, because hey, he'll cross the wire first. That's for damn sure. But again, this race seemed the most straightforward to me out of all of them. Just with that one horse, but we'll see how it goes. It's just going to have to be for me in this race, like race 11 here. It's the 5 can continue on with that 91 buyer and continue to improve, then that horse wins the race. If the 8 can clear and the 5 might just not have enough and the 8 just might have too much in the tank towards the stretch, that horse is going to win. Or if the horse coming over from Europe is just that good and racing against that good of competition, and with IRAD up, of course, anything can happen. But this race seemed the most straightforward out of anyone. So I think we both went with the 5 pretty confidently here. So we'll see how it goes. Tuna on Toast, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for the compliments for me and Charlie for the broadcast quality and voice. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, it's a great title, Bettin and Boozin. Got our booze right here, and we're going. Charlie doesn't have his, but Patrick definitely has his. I told him to get one when he gets home, but greatly appreciate all the compliments. Tune on Toast. Thanks so much for joining the show. And Jim Pillars brings up a great point. I would not worry about lower time form ratings, Euro time form ratings. Excuse me. It seems to me the time forms are lower in Europe than the US. I know the ratings are supposed to correspond. Look, it does, and it can also be for me. It's a lot of the time where, especially in like group stake company. They're just running against, frankly, better horses, especially that goes for mainly for me on the turf. Obviously, there's not too much synthetic, really nice synthetic racing out here anymore. Obviously, Gulfstream adding in, they do. But I think that, like I said, they might just be facing better competition over there. So when they come over and they end up running an 85 buyer or something like that, it doesn't shock me, especially for people like Walsh and Irad. So definitely wouldn't put it past them. But Jim, thanks for the comment. I greatly appreciate it. So Charlie, let's move on. The next race 12 is the Jeff Ruby Stakes. And as I bring up, we actually, again, dude, we're either going to be so right or so effing wrong. It's going to be hilarious. We have the same exact picks.
Oh no.
We're going 1-10-4, but sadly, we're both chalking out with Major Dude, who is on the rail.
What'll make things better is I'll make sure to let you talk about this because there's 2 horses that I didn't put in my top 3 that I think are also interesting. So right. I'll let you start talking about Major Dude.
All right. So yeah, Major Dude is definitely the morning line favorite here. Followed up by 2 fills at 7-2, and then Congruent the 8 at 5-1. As I bring up the PPs right now, like I said, we're both going with the number 1, Major Dude. And look, this horse has just ran extremely well on grass down at Gulfstream and at Aqueduct last year. It's just going to be, can this horse show the same type of run it has on turf on the synthetic? And as we know, horses tend to take decently well to the synthetic that run from the turf, but it's always a question mark, especially with a horse going to be 5-2. I probably would not bet this horse straight up at anything less than 5-2, probably nothing less than 3-1 for me. But this horse, like I said, it's only shown improvement throughout its career, and Pletcher must have saw something in that last race in the Kitten's Joy to throw this horse in the Jeff Ruby in a Derby prep. Obviously out of Bolt d'Oro, I mean, this horse has hopefully should have no problem taking to the synthetic and dirt eventually if this horse does win this race to the Derby, which we saw, something nuts coming from the synthetic last year. So it just comes down to the fact, can the horse take to the surface? And like I said, I usually don't like betting low prices at low prices at something they're doing for the first time like this. But look, I'm gonna have my faith in Pletcher here, and I think Major Dude could definitely be a player as long as he enjoys the surface. And the number 10 is Two Phils. This is a horse that I either was gonna put in second or wasn't gonna have in my thing at all. It's between Two Phils are congruent for me because I wanted to have the 4. It just comes down to the fact, look, Ravelli is absolutely insane on the synthetic, but again, most of that would come from probably Arlington for the past 5 years or whatever it was in Arlington, where he won 35% or something ridiculous. But this horse ran extremely good races down at Fairgrounds on the Lecomte and the Risen Star. It just comes down to the fact, like I said, can this horse take the synthetic? And it has decent synthetic breeding in the numbers, and with that last Turfway work means Two Fields is pointed to this spot. He could have had the opportunity to go to the Louisiana Derby, but most likely Ravelli saw this spot come up as most likely a little bit easier. So shipped him over to Turfway, and hopefully he can run well in the synthetic. But I think this horse just has a little bit of a tactical advantage with the tactical speed. Major Dude will probably be a little bit farther back than Two Phils will, especially from the rail. Don't want to get caught up close to the pace on the rail, but the number 10 Two Phils is a little bit interesting for me on the outside. And then the last horse we have is number 4, Fantastic Again, for Wesley Ward and Corrales.
Yeah,
I'll definitely let you touch on it.
So yeah, obviously I have a little bit of bias. I will say, since Wesley is mainly known for his horses having crazy fast speed and being more of a sprinter type of trainer, normally this would be of concern since Wesley isn't as well known for these longer distance races. However, this horse has clearly shown the ability to run at those longer distances and maintain on the lead. So yeah, I think this horse can be very dangerous. This horse will certainly be the early speed. It will go to the front, and I would not be surprised if this horse runs away with it. I think there's too much competition for it to do so. I definitely think this is a horse at 6-1. I think because it's Wesley, you won't get to 6-1. I think it'll probably end up closer to like 4-1. People will see that those last 2 results and that it's Wesley and get very interested in this horse and probably bet it down a little more than I would like. But I think this is one to consider in the exactas. Certainly sprinkle on it to win as well. As you mentioned on the 1 and the 10, obviously with the 10 horse, ran against an unreal horse in Instant Coffee, a horse that I think could be underrated for the Derby. So it's certainly faced the competition in distance. I think the 10's dangerous. And then the 1, I mean, it's Irad and Pletcher. Dangerous combination. I think Pletcher knows what he's doing. I just wanted to touch on those a little bit since obviously they are still in my top 3 as well. And then actually, funny enough, the other 2 horses that I wanted to touch on were Congruent and Wadsworth, and we've had people in the comments talk about both of them. So, yeah, I'm excited to hit on those real quick.
Absolutely. And like I said, Tuna on Toast touched on Wadsworth. He likes Wadsworth in 3rd and 4th spot for the Superfecta. Wadsworth is the number. Which one is it? The 11. Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you.
And yeah, if you look at its last 2 races, I mean, 82 on both, won by 10 lengths, 2 back, beat Scooby Quando in this field recently. It's a Brad Cox horse. Another one that I don't think, because it is a Brad Cox and it was expensive, I don't know if you'll get, and from Elusive Quality Road and Elusive Quality, I don't know if you'll get the best price on it, but you certainly could get some value on it. And I do think it's a horse where, and it's worked well. I'm probably going to regret that I didn't put this horse on my ticket. I think the 11 could be dangerous. It would not surprise me if it did damage. The post makes me a little bit nervous, but since it likes to sit a little, or it can sit a little off the pace, which you can see in its last race compared to 2 back, it could be dangerous. And then Congruent, I mean, you want to talk about sitting back. If you look at its last race, I mean, it's crazy. 12th by 8 lengths, 12th by 9 lengths against a very solid field, and then comes all the way back to win. Now, the concern for me is I think it will have to cover too much ground, but I certainly think it's one that could get up there late. And I think it won't get bet as much as it should. I don't think it'll be 5-1. Could certainly see this be a horse that finishes closer to 6, 7, 8-1 that you would, again, want to put in the exactas. But yeah, I'd say the 11 is the one horse I regret maybe not putting in somewhere, because I truly think it could win this race.
Yeah, the 11 is definitely interesting. Yeah, that's also true. Congruent, I agree with Siggy Mendoza. Siggy, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate you coming out. Took advantage of an insane pace. Completely agree. This horse ran home in a 22-4 and 45-4 pace and a mile and a 16th race at Turfway. That is extremely fast, coming all the way back from last. Granted, got a really nice buyer, but I think that horse really benefited from the trip last time out. And this is the same horse that beat one of my horses, Otago, last year in the Laurel Futurity. So we have a little bit of history with this horse.
You got some beef on this one.
Yeah, a little bit of beef, as the kids say nowadays. But I just think this horse benefited from an insane pace setup last time.
Oh yeah, you can see the red. Yeah, you can see the red on the figures.
Exactly. So I think this one's just gonna need to be. This is my show me again horse. If this horse can do it again, then hey, then I'll see it in the Derby and I'll bet against it again in the Derby. But yeah, like I said, the buyer topped out 9 points ahead of anything that he'd ever run before. So again, just gonna have to show me it again in this race. And again, there's a lot of comments on this race, which I also want to go through. And again, Tune on Toast also likes the vent detail. Rob N says Canadian Mist Mountain Dew, high class drinking. Hey, come on. Because I didn't want to dig into my new Coronas in the fridge, I got to finish these. It's loon juice. It's like a Honeycrisp hard cider. I don't know. I had like 3 of them left in. I had to get rid of something, but I didn't want to break into my Coronas just yet, but only high class drinking here on Bettin and Boozin. Rob, thanks so much for joining the show, man. I greatly appreciate it. Michael Austin is 110.47 pick 5. Yeah. Hey, like I said, very astute viewer, I would say, Charlie, as he has our picks down there on the bottom. So very astute, Michael. Greatly appreciate it. You joined the show. But yeah, like I said, Howard thinks this race chalks out as well. As he says right here. So it's just going to, like I said, I think that the Pletcher move, granted, this horse was nominated to the Triple Crown, obviously, but I just think that move is extremely interesting.
Yeah.
To where those horse races in the Kitten's Joy Gulfstream wins very easily, realistically, and then points them all the way over to Turfway for the Jeff Ruby. It's just an extremely interesting route for Pletcher to take. Excuse me. So I just think that I view that as a massive intent from Pletcher. So I'm going to take ride with Major Dude. And that's what I really like.
And Jim brings up an interesting point. I couldn't possibly think of what race he's talking about. I couldn't possibly think of
it. Never in a doubt. I could never think of what race he's talking about. Honestly, I want to
be a big race. It can't be a big race, right?
No, I actually tend to forget about that race, to be honest with you, even though it was on my vacation. It's my graduation day last year of all freaking and I was having a good day up until that point. So, that it kills me every time, but it's definitely a memorable day. That's for damn sure. But Howard loves the number 3 event detail, as Tune on Toast mentioned earlier, loves at 3rd and 4th of the superfectas. Hey, I completely understand with a horse like this. This horse can be coming probably from the clouds in a race like this. Ran in the Rebel last time out. Ran pretty crap, to be honest with you. But maybe this horse just didn't like the slop. Gets back on synthetic where it ran its 2 best races. For OXO Equine for Paulo Lobo. And to answer whose question was that in the chat, it was Rob Enns. Who's the top jockey at Turfway this meet? It's actually Walter oh my gosh, Kyle. Walter Rodriguez is the top jockey at 42 wins. I think Corrales is just below him at 39 wins, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the answer to that question. So I completely agree, Howard. Event detail is extremely interesting in a race like this. And then Barry O'Brien is a brand I don't recognize that name either. So thanks so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. He asks for any thoughts on Scooby Quando. And this horse follows kind of that event detail for me as I throw his PPs up on the screen right now. Is this horse lost to Congruent last time out in that massive breakdown of a race? This horse was in 7th, so not as far back as Congruent. But this horse is just going to need to improve for me, realistically.
Yeah, also lost to Wadsworth by a good amount.
Yeah, which
the horse pretty high
for me, it was kind of just the thing where if I didn't like those 2 near my top, why would I didn't want to put Scooby Quando ahead of them.
Agreed.
Just because this horse has gotten that kind of setup twice in a row and just
Oh,
hasn't been
boy.
able to beat out
Oh,
the
boy,
other
Howard.
horses behind him. So it'll be interesting. But that price, hey, 15-1, I'll never get on anybody for picking a 15-1 shot. I respect it. And
Oh,
hey,
agreed.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with something like that. But Charlie, thanks so much for going over that with me. Greatly appreciate it. We're going to go over our pick fours pretty quick here as we're going a little bit over time. And I want to get to talk to our special guest who's waiting backstage right now.
Of course.
Greatly appreciate it. But Charlie, go over your pick four right now. It is 4, 5, 11 with 5, 8, 9 with 5, 8 with 1, 4, 10 for a $27 pick four. Charlie, go ahead, talk about your ticket.
Yeah, so these were very tough races. The only race I really thought about singling was race 11 with the 5, but ultimately I just felt like, again, another Brad Cox horse with the way the 8, as we mentioned earlier, if it gets to the lead and the 5 can't get there in time, and the fact that just like the 5, it took big steps forward in its speed figures, I just couldn't take that risk to single it. And then in the other 3 races, I mean, there's a lot of good horses. They're very deep field, so I felt like I had to go 3 deep in each. And I feel strongly about my top 3. I know I mentioned some other horses in races 10 and 12 that I thought were interesting, but those were more so long shots that I could see coming in. So if I were playing it race by race, would certainly have other horses up here. But again, since I'm basing it off of all of them together, trying to figure out who I think could realistically win, just built around the most realistic contenders for me in each race.
Hey, like I said, I know, that Charlie's, basic ticket structure stays the same every week. But hey, like I said, he gives out some long shots as well. So if those come in, I'll probably have them as I would. This is my pick four
A
for
little over
$50.
budget, no?
Nope. No, we're going for it all here. We're going 1, 4, 5, 8, 11 with 5, 8, 9, 10, singling the 5 in race 3, which if I can remember correctly, oh my God, it's escaping me, but that's on the Philly
That's the one I was
race.
just talking about.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Philly race. It's I think it's not loading, but the
The
number
Brad
5 in
Cox
the
horse with
Philly
the
race, the
91
Brad
speed.
Clark source.
Yeah.
Thank you. 1, 4, 8, 10, 11 in the last leg, hoping to catch a price in one of these legs. But look, the 5 is my top pick for the entire sequence. I think that horse's numbers just stay way above the competition. Hopefully, that horse can continue to improve off of its only 5th start, I believe. So, if this horse continues to improve, the numbers just stand out to me. So, hopefully, we can single that one home and get some prices along the way on the other races. But that's my ticket structure for a $50 pick four. So, again, Charlie, thanks so much for going over that with me. Right before we get to Nathan, I want to go over the bracket pool so far through 2 rounds. And we're just going to skip past my bracket. No one needs to see mine. But I want to go over the leader right now, who's Brendan Finn, who's his
God,
champion. He's absolutely killing it with all these different. I'll go over it a little bit, but I wanted to give him a shout out for leading through the first 2 rounds. Who's his champion's actually still in, which on the contrary to the rest of us, a lot of us in the bracket pool are already out, including myself, because Kansas sucks ass, might I add. But I mean, he picked Furman.
I can proudly say I have Houston.
What?
I can proudly say I have Houston, so I still do have my champion.
Hey, yeah, I don't see you in here though. What the hell happened?
Yeah, kind of got caught up in Mexico. Kind of had I can't comment on the state of mind I was in, but I made it last minute.
Crazy. But actually, he has a perfect West bracket, might I add. He's picked every single thing in the West completely perfect. Granted, it's been all but he did pick Arkansas over Kansas, so I'll give him that. That's the only
that's a tough one. That was a tough one because Kansas defending champs, that's a big pick.
But he had Arizona going through to the Elite 8, which I'm sure if Nathan's a basketball fan, he'll have something to say about that one. But just absolutely great job by Nathan. Not Nathan, I'm sorry. By Brendan picking at the top, and then Brendan, Jay West, and B-Man are all at the top, and Go Cats is also in the top 4 right now. Those 2 are tied for second. So again, good luck to everybody else. That $100 is still up for grabs for the person that will lead at the end. And as you can see by my top, it is not going to be me. So, and as I scroll down, there's actually not a whole lot of people that are out, but I am definitely one of those people that is out, sadly. But
you might
again,
be in a little bit of trouble,
yeah, a little bit of trouble. But again, good luck to everyone out there through the Sweet 16, the Elite 8 this weekend. It's going to be an absolutely hell of a bunch of games. And like I said, going to the Final Four, which will end up being the next weekend, will be absolutely great. But now, I'm sure the point that everyone has been waiting for here. I'm very excited to meet him. I've seen him on Twitter. through a lot of his, and obviously being the caller at Relito Park is nothing short of super cool. And like I said, I wish that I knew about this type of program when I was in college, which again is not that far away, but it is super cool. So I'm super excited to have him on. Like I said, he's a student at the University of Arizona in the racetrack industry program. And the caller at Relito Park, I'm going to bring him on right now, is Nathan Klein. Nathan, how you doing, my friend?
Excited to be here.
Like I said, man, I greatly appreciate you coming on and talking about this with us, because I'm not only our viewers, but I'm gonna say it myself. I'm excited to hear about a bunch of different stuff that you go through on a daily basis with going through the calls and Relito Park and the whole program as a whole, because it's something that like I said, I've just been interested in as a kid. So like I said, greatly appreciate it. You coming on. So again, it's just me, like I said to you through email. It's gonna be pretty quick. You can take as long or as little time as you want. It's gonna be 10 rapid fire questions, which I'm gonna use Howard's branded. It's going to be our famous segment, 10 minutes to post. 10 minutes to post. It's 10 rapid fire questions. Like I said, you take as long or as little as you want to answer them. But first one's just gonna kind of be about you and what you're doing. So just tell the people where you're from and what was the first moment that you fell in love with horse racing.
I'm not originally from Arizona. I was born in New York, but my home really is North Carolina. And the first moment I ever watched a horse race and fell in love with it was the 2010 Breeders' Cup Marathon. I know, not exactly the first race you think of, but that was the first time I saw a horse race, and it was kind of just love at first sight.
Yeah, like I said, I was doing my research, and that was El Doffer, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
was that
thank
one?
you. I like you already.
Like I said, I'm not the best historian in the world, but I can remember a few things. But yeah, El Doffer in that race was absolutely amazing. So and like I said, I know I touched on the basketball. Do you have any other sport interests besides horse racing?
Not really. I'm one of those weird ones who just focus on, out of all sports, the one where the horses run in circles.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to find out that Arizona had lost. And I was like, you guys are sad? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, that's so be it. But absolutely, hey, you picked a great. Obviously you picked my favorite sport out of anything, so I completely agree. So again, now the next one's gonna be, we're gonna get general and then we're gonna get a little bit more specific. But the first question I kind of have for you is, so far throughout the life, what's a favorite race day or a track that you've attended so far? What's your favorite?
It's pretty lame, or pretty cliche at least, but Churchill Downs was a real blast. I didn't go on Derby Day. It's actually the only Triple Crown race I've yet to attend, so that's on the bucket list. But I just really like the environment of it, and also the museum really helped. Saratoga was also absolutely spectacular, but I might be biased because I got a specific kind of museum tour.
Yeah, which I'm really hoping to get this year. I'm going to Saratoga this summer for Whitney weekend, so I'm extremely excited for that. But you have me beat out. I haven't been to Churchill and I haven't been to Saratoga, but like I said, I hope to knock those two off my list this year. My favorite, I probably as a lot of the people they know, is Keeneland. I was at the Breeders' Cup this past year, and I was there in the spring. And then, as Howard touched on, I'm going to be there again this spring, because not only do I have a horse probably racing there, one of the horses that I part own is going to be racing there. But like I said, the Breeders' Cup, Drew Coatney is going to have a celebration. So we're going to be there. But yeah, Keeneland's my favorite. So hey, and like I said, I hope to have a lot of fun in Saratoga this year. That's absolutely great. Hey, I greatly appreciate it. But so we touched on what you attended so far, but what's a bucket list track or race day event that you'd like to attend in the future?
I have not done Keeneland. You mentioned Keeneland. I've not done that yet. It sounds that sounds really cool. If I could teleport anywhere, Dubai would be pretty interesting to give it to see. But it's the flights. Also, any track in Australia for using the teleportation rule here.
Yep.
But actually, I just made that up. But the teleportation thing. But for just like an American track, like just here in the States, I was gonna say Santa Anita, but I've done that already. Golden Gate also sounds really fun. I'd really like to do that.
Yeah, Golden Gate was one. I saw a bunch of people, commenting on Twitter when they were having their big races over there. It's that type of Santa Anita vibe where it's California, of course, but it just looks extremely nice out there. So I completely agree with you. I've always wanted to go to Santa Anita, and like I said, hopefully this year I can go with the Breeders' Cup. You beat me out on everything, man. You're just taking the cake past me for all the different tracks you've been to. But like I said, hopefully I can catch up to you one day. But like I said, that's absolutely awesome. Charlie, you can take the next one for sure. This is where we're going to get into a little more of the race calling, Nathan. So like I said, hear about your experiences and your different, mentors and all that type of stuff. This is where, like I said, a lot of the people are going to be a little interested. So Charlie, go ahead and take this one.
Yeah. So how did you become interested in race calling? How did you get into the industry, decide that this is what you wanted to do? How did you first get that interest?
The way I see it is that every person who has been introduced to horse racing, the first thing they want to do is be the announcer.
Yep.
That's the first thing they hear. Like, of course, you see the horses running, but the other thing you hear is the commentator. And I've had plenty of horse racing friends. They've gone on to do other things, but the first thing they ever wanted to do was be a race caller, and then they found something else. So it's almost like the default. I fall into the same category, except I never grew out of it.
Yep. Hey, and like I said, through my research and stuff, there will be questions coming up. It'll actually be the next question, but I thought it was awesome because I did the same thing. You took it to another level, which I'm sure you'll touch on. But you turn off the audio on the TV, and then you start to announce the races and stuff like that. I know you did that, which I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's just been it was super cool back in the day. And like I said, the fact that you stay through it and you find a great program that allows you to be able to further your career and meet a lot of good people, that's absolutely awesome. So and again, the next question, like I alluded to, is going to be that do you have a favorite race that you've watched or called on the TV that is a little bit memorable for you? Or whether it's a Breeders' Cup or a big Saratoga race or something like that you can think of?
Well, for races that I muted off the television, that specific category, I remember having fun with the Arkansas Derby of, I believe, 2016 Magnum Moon.
Yep.
It probably didn't sound that great, but I was having a lot of fun. Also, the 2016 Belmont Stakes and the 2021 Saudi Cup. I remember jumping on my mattress while I was doing it. And this one sort of counts, but also sort of doesn't. So it was the 2022 Kentucky Derby because my parents, I was just going to watch it, but they egged me on to actually try.
Like I said, that was my, excuse me, by the way, that was my graduation day, as I touched on earlier. So we're sitting in the bar and we're doing the same thing. We're yelling for Epicenter, we're yelling for Zandon, and then all of a sudden it's, who the hell is that on the inside? Yeah, exactly. You don't see him until all of a sudden to the 16th pole, as Larry Colmus's famous call is like, he doesn't see him till past the 16th pole, and you're like, who the hell is that coming up the rail? But yeah, we all yelled it. We all thought it was Happy Jack because we all saw the white saddlecloth. We all thought it was Happy Jack. And it was like, what the hell is Happy Jack? And it was even worse. So odds wise, but yeah, it's absolutely great. And like I said, I read that, I did some research and I read that about on your profile. So I wanted to ask you about that type of stuff. And then Charlie is going to touch on, again, it kind of moves into more of the in-person stuff, but Charlie, go ahead.
So yeah, what would you say the most exciting race that you've actually witnessed or called in person was?
Called in person, well, I've only called 14 races, which is chump change in race calling when you get to call 8 a day if you're really good. From that limited pool, I did call one photo finish. That was really fun. I didn't have the guts to actually say who I thought was going to win. So I just said that was tight. The winner was Rocky Jack. That was pretty fun. For exciting races that I witnessed, there was a lot of fun ones that I witnessed when I was a little kid. When I went to Pimlico, I mean, I got to see American Pharoah, which was pretty interesting, but I couldn't really see him. It was so wet.
Yeah,
but there was I got to see a couple really great like 3-horse photo finishes and like just head bobs. There's a lot of good ones. Chrome winning the San Diego Handicap was another very fun one to watch in person. There's just a lot there's a lot of great ones. I can't name them all by name.
I mean,
probably the one where I had a little bit of money.
Well, yeah, right. Of course, when you profit the money, that's when it gets even better. But hey, man, just the fact that you've seen those types of races it's completely awesome. And like I said, I always call it the and I know that you guys talk a lot on Twitter and all that type of stuff. And I'm sure he'll be the answer to your next question, but you don't have the Pete Aiello confidence to call the horse on the wire. Then he gets his nose down in the middle of a bob, and Pete Aiello calls it every time. I always called, I always joke around that he's got the balls to call whatever photo he wants, but that type of stuff always makes me laugh. But the next one is, again, type of that I keep alluding to my next questions, but what's the best? I know, like I said, you have a lot of mentors and stuff like that and people you've met. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received in terms of race calling? Like, and do you kind of model yourself off of anyone?
I think the simplest advice is the best. Breathe. Pete's always reminded me of that because he knows that I sometimes forget to. Breathe. That's the most simple. It's the most effective. It's the one you got to carry everywhere. There's been some fun stuff about about using the diaphragm as well from announcers like Pete and Craig Braddock. They've suggested that, but I think breathe. Just that's the first step you got to go with. And I guess if I did model myself off of anyone, coincidentally, it would be Pete Aiello because he's the announcer of the people. Everyone gets to. He comes down and he hangs out with the people who love the races. He's not larger than life figure that you think is impossible. He's a guy who loves his job and does a incredible job at it.
Yeah, and I've mentioned multiple times on this podcast. I always play Gulfstream, but I love listening to PIL is my favorite race caller. So I tell you what, that's not someone bad to model yourself off of, but and he does that, and you say not larger than life. Another thing I wanted to touch on about Pete was he does that the thing for charity where you can go up there and watch a race with him and listen to him call a race, and all the proceeds get donated to charity. So it's just another thing where incorporates the average viewer who might think that that's something they'll never get to do, but then all of a sudden Pete's like, hey, come on up, no problem at all. So yeah, he's my favorite race caller, and like I said, I know you guys can get pretty close. So I love it. There's one thing that I have a surprise that Charlie doesn't know about. So a show before that Howard had Tom Durkin on, obviously a legend that used to call for New York and everything like that. And you called the Breeders' Cup for many years. Howard had him on the show, and it was an absolutely great interview. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's episode 164 on the YouTube channel, but it's about a minute clip where he talks about having like a booklet for different words and stuff like that. And I know as you especially for some races that Relito, I've heard you call, there's only like 3 or 4 horses or something like that. So you kind of got to rattle off, a bunch of different sayings and stuff like that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play this. It's like about a minute or so of him talking about different things he used to take. And then I'll get your thinking on it. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, let's go for it.
That I would jot in notes about race calling and whatever. And actually, you might appreciate this, Howard. I called it the Mayor Daily.
Oh,
Daily
wow.
was Mayor of Chicago for decades.
Which one?
Yeah, I actually studied during my summers, and so I had a picture. He was another one of my idols. So I had a picture of him on front of this notebook, and the Mayor Daily had words to describe races, and so there's a word you can use to describe fraction, fast. That's a pretty ordinary word. I think I had at the end about 60 words that were versions of fast. And so I enjoy a good word, I really do.
Sorry guys, is there no sound? Can you hear sound?
There is sound, but like barely.
Barely?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why that was being. Here we go.
Like the reason I turned off my camera was because I was leaning in.
Yeah.
with my
Sorry about
ear.
that. No, you're good. Sorry about that. Let me play it again from here. So,
But as much as anybody else.
is that better?
Yeah.
A bit.
Okay.
As far as vocabulary goes in theater, not much. But I'm Irish. We like to tell stories, and medium of a story are the words. And so I had a book that I would jot in notes about race calling and whatever. And actually, you might appreciate this, Howard. I called it the Mayor Daily. Daily was mayor of Chicago for decades.
Which one?
Yeah,
Let's get back a little bit here.
During my, that's a pretty ordinary word. I think I had at the end about 60 words that were versions of fast. And so I enjoy a good word, I really do.
So that was him. That was Tom Durkin alliterating to the fact where, he can say the word, fast multiple times or anything like that. This horse is going fast. He went fast to the quarter, fast to the half or something like that. But it's him talking about how at some points, he had wrote down his Mayor Daily was the joke. That's what he called his book. He had about 60 different words for the word fast or anything like that. And as I alluded to before, Nathan, it was to the, when you have like 3 horses in a race or something, you kind of have to talk more and more about all these different, throwing filler and do all this different type of stuff. Have you ever thought about stuff like that of, having to say different words or different, like I said, thinking about different filler that you add into different races?
A bit, but not as much as I should. I hate to admit that. I currently do have a Google Notes, since technology has advanced since those days, with a couple of phrases, but it's tiny. It definitely hasn't gotten to 60 words yet, but I hope that it just keeps getting larger. Mike Dimoff, the announcer at Rito and the person who gave me this opportunity, shout out to him. He gave me homework. He said, I'm going to give you homework. Think of 10 words for fast and slow. Yep. And use one of them next week. So he's starting to kind of plant that in my head a bit. So if there's any other person besides Pete who would be a mentor figure, it definitely is Mike Dimoff. But he gave me that kind of vocabulary homework to kind of plant the seeds for that. And I'm hoping that over the years it gets further and further. Pete had a good piece of advice on how to call a 3-horse mile and a 16th race.
Yep.
That's an announcer's, I wouldn't say worst nightmare, but one of. And he said, just treat it like a conversation and there's someone else in the booth with you to talk about it.
Right. I mean, like I said, you get those are, like you said, the hardest races to call. A lot of people, that just start watching races or stuff, they're like, oh, the hardest ones to call are, the ones that have 14 horses in it. And you got to kind of remember every single horse in the race. You got to go through all of it. And as you alluded to, I'd argue that it's the opposite. Obviously I don't have race calling experience, but, just having to talk about 3 horses going around an oval for 2 minutes straight, it gets a little repetitive. So I just wanted to bring that up because, like I said, that was a great interview that they had with Tom. And the fact that, that Mike has actually talked to you about, those different types of stuff and planning it in your head. I thought that was actually really interesting. So again, thanks for that. I greatly appreciate it. But he actually, Tune on Toast says hi, Nathan. So again, all the viewers are popping out. Greatly appreciate everyone being in here. And again, I apologize for the audio as that was a little low. I greatly apologize again. And Tune on Toast, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about Nathan, so feel free to deflect the question. Tune on Toast says, Nathan, do you bet at all in horses, or are you staying away from it?
For legal reasons, I'm not allowed to.
That's what I thought.
In most states, it's 21. I'm 18, so no, I don't bet. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't. So ironically, I don't bet and I don't booze. This is sun-kissed. I'm so kind of surprising. Hey. I even made it on here. I really wanted to make that joke.
No,
I've been waiting all night. But yeah, that saves also Jim's question: do you handicap a race before you call it? But yes, I do think in the back of my head of who I think is probably going to get the most attention from me, and it's thrown me off before because there was one race where 2 horses lost their riders, they bolted, and I completely lost my entire plan. And I barely remember what I even said. I just knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
And one more, is it easier to remember colors or silks? Simply put, you don't memorize numbers very well, or you don't do it. Memorizing numbers is not a good idea because it's very easy for them to get blocked. So silks are much easier to use. But at certain courses like Rito, you don't get the owner's silks. Instead, it's just a silk for a number. Red is solid red, silks 1, etc. So it's very easy to just conflate the two. But at a track like Turf Paradise, where you don't really get color, you actually get the owner's unique colors, you still go with that because it's much more unique and easier to spot.
Right. And that's actually a lot of people have that question where, just like, do you remember the numbers or whatever? So that's very well put and greatly appreciated. Howard, we'll get to your question in a second. Actually, we'll just go to it now because then we're going to get into that a little bit more about the racetrack industry program to close out the show and give your thoughts on that. But Howard asks, Nathan, do you believe it's important to give every horse a call in the race, or does it depend on where they are in the field?
I've been told by Craig Braddock told me that you should give a horse that you should try and get every horse around the field, and that's one of the pieces that I took from him because that's a great point. Everyone wants to hear their horse at least once to know what they're doing. Sure, you don't have to mention the last place horse 5 times, but at least acknowledge their existence. Is important, and I think it also just serves as a better race call than to just call the top 4. And also, I think it shows a better showing of research. Prove to everyone, no matter what race, that you knew everybody.
And like I said, I love it. I completely agree with you. So, Howard, thanks so much for the question, man. I greatly appreciate it. And then Charlie, I'll let you close out with these bottom 2. But like I said, this one gets a little bit more into the racetrack industry program.
So what would you say the most interesting thing is that you found out about the program that you're currently in?
I think just the classes, the fact that I can now start taking classes about horses. Like, I haven't gotten into like the racetrack industry stuff. We're just learning the basics of like conformation and all of that. But just the fact, oh yeah, I'm going to class, and today we're going to be writing a worksheet where we pick 3 horse body types, describe their conformation and how they're different and similar.
Right. And like I said, I know doing a little bit of research, it's, you get a little bit more into the blood stock as well and different stuff like that, which, you alluded to with the different horse body types. So it's not just, going through, race calling or what goes on actually, behind the scenes at the track. It's this whole encompassing thing, which I found extremely interesting. I kind of had to pull myself away from reading it just because I kept going over to it. But I know a lot of people want to talk, want to hear about this program because they find it extremely interesting, as a lot of them didn't even know it existed before, as it's starting to gain a little bit of traction recently. So like I said, I agree. And then the last one, it's going to be a little bit of what do you see for yourself, but Charlie, go ahead, take it away.
So yeah, what are your future goals? Is there somewhere you want to take it with this? What's the end goal in the horse racing industry for you?
The end goal is, in broad terms, just to find a job that I enjoy in the racing industry. It doesn't even have to be race calling, although that would be amazing. Just the fact that I would wake up and work with racehorses or work on a racetrack and see them run almost every day would be enough for me. Now, race calling would be the most specific outlet I could take that, but I feel like over these next couple of years, I can find many other things that I love about this sport, which I think is the best part about it, that there's not one way to do things. And heck, race callers, every one of them will tell you that they've done not just race calling, they do almost everything, at least once.
Right. And, there's a lot of people that, not so much race calling, but they start out as like, I guess services person, and they find other avenues that they're very interested in and all that type of stuff. So I agree with you. And I love, like I said, I appreciate you just kind of expounding on the different things that you've learned through the program. And like I said, just kind of bring a little bit more awareness to it, because it is a great program. And, like I said, it's actually gone a lot. It went a lot farther back than I thought. I thought it was kind of a little bit of a newer thing, but it's been around since the early 70s. So, like I said, that was completely new to me, and a lot of people don't actually even know it exists. And one thing I found, and another thing I found out was Rieto is actually like it's used as like your ground to kind of bolster up your guys' education and stuff like that, which I also think it's really cool. But like I said, as we close out the show here, I'm going to end with 2 really good comments from both the owner of the podcast, I call him the boss, but with Howard, and then Jim Pilars. But he said, Howard says your calls are great, especially for someone with a limited amount of experience. Keep it up. Don't stop, because like I said, for just someone with very limited experience, you are doing a really great job, and especially, you're not, your Rieto calls, but then also your Turf Paradise call, which is obviously, stepping up a little bit, but your calls are great, man. Keep it up. Greatly appreciate it. But then, Jim Pillar's, I'm going to end with this one right now. So in all seriousness, I cannot tell how impressed I am by Kyle, Charlie, and Patrick, and now Nathan. They're so much mature and advanced from when I was at their age. So I know we get all the time, it comes down to, oh, we were never doing that at your age. And then all of a sudden, we're just building that background into, not only handicapping for us and, podcasting, but I mean, what you're doing is what in my opinion, 10 times cooler than anything, we can do with pen and paper and, wagering a little bit of bucks on, to hear yourself call the races. I think that's pretty cool. But like I said, thanks so much, Nathan, for coming on. I greatly appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Giving your time and all that stuff. Cause like I said, I was extremely interested to talk to you and all, your different insights on stuff that I've always wanted to know about. And I'm sure all of our viewers have as well. And then Charlie, like I said, thanks so much for being on. I greatly appreciate it. Nathan, I'll end the show with you on the screen. And if you want to stay after, we can talk for a little bit, or if you have stuff to go do, no problem at all either. So
I'm in a funny part of my life because right after this, I got to join a Zoom call and learn about math for my math midterm. So despite all the incredible meteoric success that has been coming around, it seems, I'm still just a freshman in college.
Yep, I remember the days, man. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, like I said, Nathan, thanks so much for joining the show, and I'll end with you on it, guys. For my co-host Charlie Freeman and for my guest Nathan Klein, this has been Kyle Roscoe, episode number 12 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck with all your bets this weekend, and tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern for a show covering the Louisiana Derby Day with Howard, Pete, and Paul. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good night.